So to finish the week, I thought we'd cover a somewhat serious topic. I had considered covering the topic of the woman who shot burglars that came into her house with a crossbow. She hit one of them in the stomach and they fled. One was armed with a hammer and another with a machete, but none have been found since that happened. They fled in separate directions and the police seem to be utterly feckless in finding someone with a crossbow bolt sticking out of their stomach. But instead we're going to talk about a serious subject. Project 84, a charity called CALM, calls for action on male suicide. There were 84 sculptures placed on top of a central London building to represent the number of men who take their own lives every single week, which is quite a chilling thing to see, because to me it looks like people are actually lining up. These sculptures were placed up on top of a very high building, and if I saw that, I would be very scared that people were actually doing it. It being a very big and obvious publicity stunt then alerts you to the very legitimate concern of suicide. So, suicide is one of the leading causes of death among men in Britain, and yet it is rarely talked about by countries' leaders, which is quite right. In fact, one of the times it was mentioned, somebody laughed about it. Do you remember that one? I wouldn't even rape you. Every 2 hours a man in the UK takes his own life. That's 84 every week, largely unseen, other than by the family and friends they leave behind. It would be difficult to walk past the 84 sculptures standing on top of the This Morning studios and ITV headquarters on London's South Bank without noticing. They are part of a campaign by CALM, Campaign Against Living Miserably, to start a conversation about male suicide in a bid for improved suicide prevention and bereavement support. There is absolutely no support. There's very little support for those who are depressed, let alone those that have suicidal tendencies, although that could fall in line with depression. Of course, I'm not trying to denigrate that, I promise. I guess to an extent they are actually mutually exclusive. Anyway, now we have a chance to look at the suicide rates. From the Office of National Statistics, the main points are, in the UK there were 3.6% fewer suicides registered in 2016 than 2015. This equates to nearly 6,000 suicides in 2016, a decrease from 6.2 thousand deaths in 2015. Around 3/4 of all suicides in 2016 in the UK were male. Compared with registration year 2015, the English rate has fallen a significant amount. For deaths registered in 2016 in the UK, persons aged 40 to 44 had the highest age-specific suicide rate at 15.3 per 100,000. This age group also had the highest rate among males at 24.1 per 100,000. The age group with the highest rate for females was 50 to 54 at 8.3 per 100,000. The most common suicide method in the UK in 2016 was hanging. Now, as we know, quite a lot of people aged 40 to 44, we know the reasons why they do. It's not a midlife crisis. For quite a lot of them, it's loss of job, loss of family, not just through bereavement, but also those that lose the right to see their children because they have split up with their partner, which causes them to spiral through alcoholism, depression, self-harm in many, many ways. Not everyone has the capacity to simply motivate themselves to go to the gym or work extra hard, because sometimes that person has to pay a ridiculous amount of support for the family who have grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle that the court thinks should be maintained, which means the person who's working an inordinate amount of hours to not only pay for that lifestyle is also paying a ridiculous amount to pay for their own lifestyle, and yet still living off corned beef out of a tin. I swear corned beef never degrades. It's disgusting. Now, the statistician's comments on this: the fall in suicide rates is the largest decrease in 20 years. It fell for both male and females in the UK, though men still account for 3/4 of suicides. It's interesting to note that between 1981 and 2016, the male suicide rate among the 75 and over age group has more than halved. Fantastic. It has often been noted that as men get older, if they can get that far in life, into their twilight years anyway, they seem to get happier, whereas women get grumpier. I don't know where I've seen this, by the way. If I can find out where it was, I will of course link it in the description for you. But for now, you'll have to just make do with my word, which is obviously nothing more than an assertion, so feel free to disregard it entirely. Each represents, so the statues, a man who took their own life, and their family and friends worked with American artist Mark Jenkins and his collaborator Sandra Fernandez to create each figure. On the project's website are the names and details of each of the men with stories told by those close to them. They are from different backgrounds of different ages and races, but what many of them have in common is that they try to keep their struggle from those close to them. There is an old-fashioned way of men being raised. Yes, there is. It's the stiff upper lip, bottle everything. I was raised this way, and it's something I still do to this day, because I don't like the idea of being a burden on someone, which is obviously something rather stupid to do, but it is something people do because they feel it is proper. But now, as we become a more open society, and people are encouraging men to be more expressive, some not actually wanting it but saying they want it, we can exclude those, but the majority of people want people to be more open about feelings, because they are a problem, and if we can understand how people feel, we can help them better. Regardless of how you're raised, opening up does help. Or just bottling it until that tumor on your brain pushes down just hard enough that you forget everything.
I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor. Oh, I'm a tumor.
The sculptures were unveiled on Monday as Calm's chief executive Simon Gunning said the support organisation has been campaigning and providing services for 11 years. But try as we might, it isn't enough to tackle the enormous problem of male suicide. It's great that you would say that, but I would also like to say that what you do is something that should be commended. There isn't much help for people out there. There really isn't. People can claim there is, but honestly there isn't. There just isn't. It's a lie. So any work you do to help those, or deter people, or help people get through suicidal tendencies, or from trying to commit suicide, is highly commendable. He said, Project 84 is all about making the scale of the situation very clear to everyone who sees the sculptures, and we hope that by working with the families and friends of real men who have taken their lives, we can face the enormous issue of suicide together and strive for change. I really hope you are successful. The project is also being run alongside a petition calling for a government minister to take on official responsibility for suicide prevention and bereavement support. I wouldn't be surprised if this went to the health secretary, instead of actually addressing it, just fob it off as a pretend responsibility. Now, the petition for it has more than 103,000 signatures, which is fantastic. Now, just to end this video, I'm going to leave information in the description for Calm and also the Samaritans. If there's anyone you know or you yourself feel in any way like that, and suicide seems to be a legitimate option to you, I would recommend that you call them and talk to someone. So that all aside, I hope you all have a lovely day, a lovely weekend as well, and thank you all for listening.